Yeah, welcome back, guys. It's been a while since I've done an Eden Zero chapter review, and this one I pre-read ahead to all of them. So I read 10 chapters in a like one sitting, and I've got to say I thoroughly enjoyed what I read, and I like the direction the story is going, and all the plot twists and everything is quite good. And I especially enjoyed the conversations that are had, especially the dialogue between the characters. I find that especially interesting and very enjoyable to read. And some of the topics that were discussed throughout the chapters was quite intriguing indeed. So I really like this show, and it's definitely grown on me quite a bit. I'm just a bit sad to see that, despite how established the name Hiramashima is, that not many people are talking about Eden Zero. In fact, I'm the only person who I know or even reads this series, to be honest, and I don't know anyone else who reads it. So yeah, it just shows that it's not really that popular, and I wish it was. So it's kind of slept on at the moment, but hopefully people will eventually see that it's quite a good series. And yeah, all right, so I'll I'll probably just go through the chapters and see see what I thought about each one. All right, so we start off with chapter 68. Actually, before that, I just want to talk about the artwork throughout the chapters done by Hiro Mashima. I want to say the art and the paneling and the artwork, they all look really nice, and I especially enjoyed the action panels where he just draws a big scene, and I really enjoyed the flow of the panels. I thought I'd just throw it out there before I go into the review of each of the chapters. All right, so with 68, all right, so 68 was interesting, and I especially like the way he uses Xiaomei, I think, the what you call it, the person who's out of time, yeah, and she breaks the fourth wall to give us a, she acts like the narrator of the story to tell us about how the arc concluded, obviously, with Homura's mother, losing power, and what happened next. Just, they seem to have got a mayor, and starting to prosper again. So that was pretty cool how she introduced. I mean, she concludes the arc anyway, and gives us a narrator. She narrates what happens next. So with that, we see everyone on Eden Zero ship, all the crew members just discussing about Valkyrie's death, and I thought this was quite an interesting topic that they spoke about, which even I have spoke about these things before. I mean, not spoke, but I thought about them before, so it was quite interesting to see that someone else was thinking about these things. So sister sister thinks that she wants to bring back Valkyrie, and they have her memories on a cloud storage, so they could technically bring her back with her memories, well, some of her memories anyway. So this is where the argument is had with for bringing Valkyrie back and against Valkyrie. So sister, obviously, she likes Valkyrie a lot because they've been through a lot, their family pretty much. So she definitely wants to bring her back. But then we see Witch bringing up the counter argument, though, saying that even if you bring back her memories and her body, is she still the same person? And sister brings up tries to say that it's the same because if you have the same memories and the same look, then that's pretty much the same person. But so it's a bit of a counter argument, a bit of an argument between the two, and so yeah, it was quite deep, like thinking about the fundamentals of life anyway, and if you brought back someone from the dead, would they be the same? Would they be the same person they were? And yeah, and they conclude it's different, and also Homura chimes in as well and saying that uh, they can't really bring back Valkyrie's body from the planet anyway, because we see this panel of people going to visit her, and she's kind of seen as a symbol in the planet. So that was pretty nice. It's kind of a fitting what do you call it, death for her, I guess. And it was pretty nice to see that people see her as a symbol, and they as a bit of an attraction. And we also get a bit of Shiki as well, and he has a flashback to when he was with the Demon King Ziggy. And I want to say Ziggy's design, it looks very cool indeed, especially in the flashback, and how he talks about that even robots can die, and that the reason why they're able to live and is because they also fear dying as well, and they have heart. So it was quite cool how this show is trying to change the what do you call it, the current what's the word I'm looking for? The current mindset of what a robot is, saying that they can be human, and they're not just machines, they have feelings and stuff like that. That's kind of what he's trying to portray in this series, which is all right, to be honest. That's kind of the philosophy that's been trying to pushed on. But I especially enjoyed that interesting concept about if bringing back your friend from the dead with the same memories. And oh yeah, another thing was apparently another argument brought up was that she won't remember the times that she spent with Homura, because you can't really you can't, what do you call it, you can't remember the feelings, and that kind of stuff won't be the same. So it would be a different person that just looked like her. And all right, enough about that. So after that conversation is had, we see sister and witch go off in a room together, and it's just them two together, and and then they just start crying. And then this kind of goes back to what Shiki says in the chapter earlier about how robots don't have emotion. I mean, robots have heart as well, and we see these two robots, who are supposed to be cold-hearted like machines. We see them express emotions of sadness, and those two just start crying, and obviously they were hiding it in front of the crew members because they didn't want to show weakness, but in front of them too, because they're quite close, they show their true expressions, which was really, I thought, was very impactful because of how the chapter is and what the themes of the chapter was. And and it laid out perfectly, especially after Shiki kind of set it up, and them crying was the punchline. So I thought that was a very emotional chapter indeed, and had a lot of impact. Yeah, it was quite sad. So yeah, and also, can we talk about Hiramashima? I've got to praise this guy because he took a different route. Because the route he would have taken before, especially in the fairy tale route that he usually did, was he would have brought back Valkyrie from the dead. You know, I always assumed that Valkyrie was going to return, but not bringing her back. It's kind of a bittersweet feeling, because we spent the whole arc looking for her. I mean, the whole purpose of the show so far, like the first main goal is to get the 4 star shines, and if we find out one of them's dead, that kind of beats the whole purpose of like the whole first goal anyway. So it's kind of crazy. So yeah, it's kind of bittersweet feeling that I didn't bring her back, but it's quite crazy. So yeah, that was quite a ballsy move, I would say, and definitely trying to break the cliche of his previous shows, that like Hiro Mashima, his shows were always very cliche. So I'm definitely seeing something different going on right now. So I've got to praise him for that. And we find out that Homer, she's now going to fill the role of the 4 star shine, taking over Valkyrie's role. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And we also find out Kraken Joe is on the chase. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Oh, yeah, and we also get a glimpse of the guy who's the, what do you call it? He's like the captain, but he's kind of mysterious. He doesn't really interact with anyone else. I see him for literally a panel now. I'm still wondering, is he a villain or what is he? All right. So in chapter 69, everyone's talking about Rebecca's powers actually. So this whole conversation about Rebecca's powers, I found it quite comedic, and it really changed the vibe of the chapter, especially since the last one was kind of dark and sad. This one is a bit more comedic and light, which I really enjoyed. How they're talking about her powers. Weiss is complaining because they both have the same power type, which is they both have speed kind of abilities, and he's kind of saying that heroes can't have the same power type in the group. They all need to be a bit different, or else it wouldn't work. And the whole conversation's kind of funny, like the whole concept of that, which I found quite entertaining anyway. And we also get Homura talking to the other Starshines about what her role being a Starshine is all about. And we learn that there isn't really that much difference, and but there is an actual role in the fact that there is a weapon called Inferion, which is, I think, is a fairy tale reference, because I remember there being something called Inferion I I think in Fairy Tale that was the was it the nuclear? No, it wasn't. It was like the massive energy blast from the like satellite attack when all the council members sat down and used the power. I feel like that's what it was. It was pretty much a weapon. So yeah, so apparently you need all four starshines to authorize the use of Ethereon, but she's not allowed to tell Shiki and the others about it. So she declines. So technically she's not ready for that responsibility yet. So I'm guessing later on we'll go more into more depth when we touch upon the topic of Ethereum and when it's needed. So, and yeah, so that happens. And let me think. There was something else as well. Oh yeah, and I've and then there's the talk about all having to follow absolute orders from the Demon King, and we see that Homura is saying, when Witch or I forgot if it's Witch or Sister tells Homura that she makes up an innuendo actually, because she's like, oh, so she doesn't have to, she kind of implies that like lewd orders from Shiki, then she doesn't have to follow them. So yeah, that was kind of funny when she made that reference anyway. So yeah, I like it when it makes a bit of innuendo jokes are quite funny. And then we also see Sister has tied up Moskoi, and he's just like he's naked and he's like chained up, So I don't know what's going on with him, but Moscow is definitely a funny character, and he's definitely there for comedy relief. But he makes me laugh whenever I see him, to be honest. And Rebecca has this weird dream where she's with Shiki. Oh no, she's bathing. I remember. And then she has a weird dream where she wakes up and they're in the middle of a fight, and she's with Shiki only, and she mentions Happy, and he's like, "Why are you talking about dead cat?" And she wakes up. So that seems to be a premonition of something. I'm guessing we'll find out later on. I don't know how much later on, but it's kind of a setup for something else because it seems like it seems kind of vital anyway, the way it's portrayed anyway. So in chapter 70, um, we find out that Shiki and the others, while Rebecca is sleeping, has gone to infiltrate Kraken Joe's ship to find out why they're stalking Eden Zero in the first place anyway. And we see that Weiss has a earring made from lacrima, which is I think another reference to fairy tale, or I think it's just something that's around in the universe. So yeah, and we see the group Homura, Weiss, and Shiki just explore the town. So there's a city in his ship, so that's pretty crazy. So I guess the whole arc is going to take place in this city. That's what I get anyway. And yeah, I like it. I like the scenario. So that was pretty cool to find out that the ship has a whole city on it, and we see the members just go around the city to see exploring, and it looks pretty fun the way it's done anyway, because we see Vice playing poker with some people, and we see Homer getting hit on by a bunch of dudes, and we and then there's a lot of comedy gold in this series, but I gotta say, but I especially enjoyed the panel where there's like a strip club, and we see Weiss and Shiki's face, wanting to go inside. They're like blushing, but obviously Homer is not having it, and she grabs them and pulls them away from that direction anyway. So yeah, and then then they just conclude that it's just a normal city, and then they start talking about attacking this ship. To be honest, and Shiki has concluded that he's not going to attack the ship because all these innocent people will get hurt. And then this is when Weiss kind of what's it called? He interjects his opinion, saying that everyone here was from Gillist and everyone on Gillist was a criminal. So he kind of makes the point, oh, why would you care what happens to these criminals anyway? The scumbags in the first place, and we see a little argument between Shiki and Weiss about attacking, and the yeah, this is kind of a topic of morality in the first place, which is quite a complex topic to be discussing. So I really enjoy it when they talk about these topics. You know, I'm seeing a theme here. This is the second time he's mentioned quite complex and mature themes, and I like the direction this show is going. And this is what I mean. This is why I like the show, because we start talking about the more. No, I mean, what I really like about the show is the kind of conversations that are had between the characters, especially between Shiki and Weiss here, when they're talking about, you know, is it right to attack these people even though they have sinned, you know, because they're all criminals? Is it right to attack them or not? And you know the differences in opinion. And then we meet this guy called Sabir, and apparently we met him before, but I completely forgot about him. So this Sabir is from this current timeline. So he's friends with the old Wise. So yeah. So when they meet him, so this guy has nothing to do with the Sabir we saw in the previous arcs whenever we saw him. So he's a different guy, but he's still the same guy, if that makes sense. You know, it's kind of, you know, it's confusing, but if you read the series up to now, you should know what I mean. And but when they meet him, we they react to him with how they react to what his past self has done, which is not him. So they're reacting to the Sabir they've met and taking out their frustrations. And we see that Weiss gets quite angry when he meets him, but he figures out quite quickly that it's not the same guy. And then we see Pino's very scared of this guy Sabir, and we get a flashback, which really helped my memories anyway, of is the old Sabir, the different. Oh, I'm gonna call him the alternate Sabir, hurting Pino and you know, abusing him. And then we even see Shiki get angry at Sabir because of what he did to Pino. But this is a different Sabir. It's from this timeline Sabir. So they let bygones be bygones, and they start talking. And apparently he's a bar owner, and he says, if you want to meet us, if you want to hear my stories, come to my bar anytime. And then so as they're walking around, Kraken Joe has discovered that these guys are on his ship, and he puts them on the, you know, massive TV, and it's like anyone who catches them will be rewarded. And all of a sudden, everyone's like following and looking out for them, trying to get the reward. So yeah, and in 71, oh no, that comes a bit later, I guess. Oh no, but in 71, we find out Kraken Joe has sent his he sent a group of his goons to attack Eden Zero, and somehow they've managed to penetrate through the defenses, and we'll learn more about that, which is, you know, based on Kraken in the first place. So yeah, and we see Seth. You know, he's the robot cowboy, and we've seen these guys before in the previous chapters. I love Seth because robot cowboys. I love it. You know, I just love anything cowboy, to be honest. And the fact that he's a robot and the way he pulls his guns on those sentries was pretty cool. So it's them, and then we see a comment about wow, and then Witch goes to fight them, and we see a comment made by one of them about how, oh, this is the Demon King as a witch as well, and what, they got a princess as well. And is the princess coming? And we see a panel saying Moscow. He like, oh, it's like he's not talking about you. I found that really funny because every time, I'm telling you, Moscow is definitely comedy gold in this series. So you know, he sees himself as a princess, and yeah, so I thought that was a bit of a funny moment in the chapter. And then we see Witch fight, and we get a reference to Valkyrie again, saying if Valkyrie was here, she would have dealt with them. So I'm guessing Valkyrie was definitely the more combat focused Starshine, but obviously she's not around anymore. So what can we do? But we see Witch going to fight them, and Rebecca's not sure that which can beat them all. And I want to say them, I was a bit unsure if she could beat them all, to be honest, because I thought these guys were meant to be Kraken Joe's main goons, but apparently not, because of what we learn later on. So Witch has an assault mode where she, you know, changes up into fighting mode, I guess, and she can manipulate ether like magic. So this pretty much saying that she's using ether, but no, but she's actually using magic, and she can use like elements and stuff, and she uses different elements like water. Actually, I don't know if she uses water, but she uses electricity and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. And she actually beats them all. I was very surprised she beat them all. So I was very happy that she beat him because I like Witch as well. I like all the Star Shines. And I was glad to see she wasn't hurt too much. And with them defeated, they communicate with the others that they defeated them. And yeah, Kraken Joe says he's gonna send out the Element Four. And I've got to say, Hiro Mashima loves making these groups of enemies, doesn't he? Like especially in Fairy Tail, there must have been so many different groups. There was the Orushian Seis, there was the Tartarus group. I can't think of. There was a lot of groups, and we're seeing some groups right now. The Element Four, Kraken Joes, Fire, Earth, Water, and Air people. So yeah, we'll see more of them later. And I've got to say, watching Witch beat them was pretty badass, but I was really scared she was going to get hurt. So I really enjoyed that little mini fight, and I thought they would put up a bit more of a fight, but clearly not. So yeah, this was a good chapter. I thoroughly enjoying this series, and then we'll get into chapter 72. All right, so in in chapter 72, so they kind of captured the three, what do you call it, invaders of the ship, and two of them self-destruct. So R.I.P. Seth, the robot cowboy, and only one of them remains. And we find out Kraken Joe actually is his he's the alchemist, so he can change the properties of items. So he turned the steel of the Eden ship into paper, and that's how he managed to get inside the shield as well. And apparently, like even though despite the ship's made out like a special metal, which is really durable, it turned it into paper-like substance. So that's kind of a hint into Kraken Joe's power. And then, as we see, Kraken Joe offering a reward to anyone capturing the Eden Zero members, we see like a mob, the group of the mob, and they're chasing Shiki and his friends. And I see I recognize one of the characters that he used as actually a cameo from Fairy Tail. It's like the Warren, so like pretty much like the psychic guy who was using telepathic communications to everyone in Fairy Tail. He makes a cameo, and I want to say I really enjoy these cameos. So this there's some things that are very constant with this show, and there's definitely there's always something etchy every week, and there's always a reference to Fairy Tail now and then, which I really enjoy so much. It's just a little cameo, makes me happy, I guess. Mm. But then so they managed to get away, and they have so Weiss has made an escape app, no, a disguise app, so which is pretty useful, and he manages to like disguise himself as a woman, and he gives everyone else a makeover. And obviously the edgy moment I was talking about earlier, he gives Homer a really like revealing skimpy dress, and she's not really happy with the dress, and she changes herself into something else. But then we see Pino gets turned into a human girl, and she looks at herself in the puddle, and she looks very happy indeed. So obviously her dream was to become more human-like. So seeing her complete a dream is kind of like very. It was a very heartwarming moment. I really enjoyed that moment, but that moment didn't last long because one of the element four, the water one, Laguna, has appeared. His name is Lagoon. Kind of a water-based thing. So we see that Shiki's very happy for Pino, but because he cries, he turns into water. And apparently, Laguna's ability is anyone who cries turns into water. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. And yeah, and we also see Pino cry as well, and she turns into water. So yeah, in the next chapter, 73, um, we see Laguna step on Weiss's heel. No, you step on Weiss's toes. It makes him cry as it turns to water. And it's kind of funny actually. I've noticed Laguna he's wearing stilettos. He's a dude, and he's got eyeliner. And it's kind of funny when Weiss was making fun out of him. No, Laguna was making fun out of Weiss for cross dressing by disguising himself as a woman, and he made fun out of him for wearing eyeliner. So that was kind of funny. So Laguna So it's only Homura left, and Homura versus Laguna. The fight was, I like the fight quite a bit because it wasn't your typical clash and battle. It was a very different kind of battle because it was very unique in the sense that his main objective was to make Homura cry. So they clashed swords, and during the clash, he starts telling him or a sad story. So the method of battle was very different. It was just any way to make him cry. So he kind of resorts to a lot of different techniques. So the sad story didn't work, and he tries to what do you call it? He tries to make her yawn, because yawns are infectious as well, and apparently when you yawn, you also cry a little bit. And yeah, it was kind of funny watching the different methods he used to try to make her cry. It's a very interesting style of fighting and very unique. And I thoroughly enjoyed the battle, to be honest. And then he finally beats her with an onion, where he smashes the onion in the front of her face so she cries, and makes turns into water. And just as he thought he won the fight, we find out Weiss pretended to turn into water using one of the using his app to fake the tears with the facial editor, I guess. I thought that was quite clever. And then he uses his disguise app to turn himself into a puddle of water because he figured that after Shiki and Pino turned into water, that's kind of what he expected. And when he stepped on his toe, he expected him to cry. So I thought that was quite cool. The way Weiss actually, the way Weiss tricked him, and it seems plausible as well. It's not like an ass pull because he's quite a clever dude, and yeah, it made sense for me. So I was quite intrigued with that plot twist anyway, and the ending of this chapter was very good because of what Weiss says to him. And the smack talk Weiss was giving him was pretty good. And he says, I've got no spectators. I've got no spectators for my heroic entrance. Makes me want to cry. And the fact that he says makes me want to cry is kind of like a taunt to Laguna, because Laguna's, he's trying to make everyone cry. So I thought that was a very good taunt indeed. All right, so in chapter 74. So we see Weiss versus Laguna. Obviously now Weiss goes into his Iron Man form and he fights Laguna. And whilst he's fighting him, Laguna gets annoyed at Weiss, saying you'd have to call out all your moves and stuff. And he goes, "I'm a hero. That's what I do, and I will win." So I thought that was kind of funny as well. And the fight's all right, to be honest. The smack talk was pretty funny, and Weiss with more smack talk. Anyone who cries in front of me will cry some more, which was kind of making fun out of what Laguna says. His catchphrase was, "Anyone who cries in front of me will fall." So I thought that was kind of funny, and yeah, the fight was, it's these kind of Eden Zero fights are kind of creative, which I do enjoy, and it's just not a slugfest and not all about power. And the way this one worked was, we saw that Weiss was kind of losing the fight, and he was low on battery as well, so he didn't really have much time left. And then we see Laguna using his water gun, and he gets Weiss gets a message from what's she called, Hermit, saying, "Oh, maximize your cooling device." And I thought that was quite creative because his suit's gonna have a cooling, like a cooler to stop his suit from overheating, and where he modifies it into his arm, and he kind of freezes Laguna's water, and that's how he beats him. I thought that was very cool, and the fact that he has the reference to his earrings in the earlier chapter, so they have a form of communication, made it more plausible, and I thought that was very cool to be very cool, I guess, the whole sequence, and everything made sense. None of this is BS anymore. I'm really enjoying how everything ties up. Mm. So yeah, Laguna beats him, and Weiss doesn't even get time to celebrate because he gets shot from a sniper, and he just falls to the floor. And the guy who shot him was the Element 4 sniper, and he's the flame guy. And apparently he didn't really trust Laguna to beat them, so he was kind of watching over them. And so we see Weiss fall down. So that was pretty epic. That was some pretty not epic indeed. So yeah, in 75, because Laguna is defeated, everyone else returns back to the normal state. And they're like, what happened to Weiss? He's been shot, and that's what happens. And then Pino kind of calculates the trajectory of the bullets and where it came from. You know, I thought that was very clever indeed. I'm telling you, like, it's clever. This show is clever. I'm liking it. And because they calculate where the location of the bullet is from, we see that the sniper, he doesn't really care because he's going to shoot them, and he uses his ether on his sniper, which looks very cool, and I like the concept a lot. And this is massive blast comes out. Hmm. And then this is when Shiki, he's like, oh, he starts using his ether, and he's like, because he knows where the bullet's going to come from, he can deflect it. And he does deflect it quite easily, and he barely misses the sniper. And I got to say, the sniper saying this catchphrase was very funny indeed. So the sniper is the flame element as well. So he says, I'm really fired up. I thought that was a reference to Natsu, because Natsu says that all the time. That's his catchphrase. So I really enjoyed that as well. But because and then this smoke screen comes up, so you can't snipe them anymore. And it turns out Sabir is kind of helping them out, and he takes them back to his bar that he owns, which was also another cool reference because he has a bar. And yeah, with that, this helping out, and because Weiss has been hit, um, and sister, she has healing powers, but she can also store them in an energy drink, and it's called sister energy. And it's up to Rebecca to transport that to Weiss, so she gets on one of those um ships. So yeah, I do like to see that Rebecca getting a bit of shine, and she comes across one of the other elements called Sylph, and this is quite interesting indeed. There's space, there's wind in space, So she's in a ship and she's got wind around her, so that was pretty interesting indeed. And we see Rebecca using and then I thought they're gonna fight, but Rebecca has better things to do, so she's kind of smart in the sense that she just uses her leaper ability to just go past her and sneak on, because she doesn't really have time to be fighting this woman anyway. She got her priorities right, which I really enjoyed that they mentioned that. So I thought that was very clever. But unfortunately for Rebecca, she gets trapped. She manages to get inside the ship, but unfortunately she gets trapped inside the wind ball made by Sylph. So she gets captured pretty much, Rebecca and Happy. And meanwhile on Eden Zero, so the last remaining Draken Jogoon is getting interrogated, and we find out she's not even human and is actually a space slime, because she kind of changes her form into like her original form, I guess, and which makes sense because earlier when we saw this character, she has the ability to like extend her limbs and stuff, so that makes sense why she could do that in the first place. But yeah, sister is definitely very sharp, and she knows something. She's trying to interrogate him. Oh yeah, and then so in 77, as we learn more about the interrogation, we learn about the fact that the slime tells us that Drac and Joe is only after the Eden Zero, after he had this conversation with Master Noah, who is the Adventure Guild leader, who's is pretty much like the leader of the guild that Rebecca's part of anyway. So something to do with Rebecca's guild leader is kind of suspicious. And he's kind of a good guy. Well, he's portrayed as a good guy, so maybe there's more to him than meets the eye anyway. So yeah, and so Shiki and everyone find out about what happened to Rebecca. So they go and try to help out Rebecca. But so we see Rebecca. I mean, what's this? Shiki versus Sylph. All right. So yeah, I thought that was gonna be another fight, but we get this big surprise. Guess who's back? Jin is back. So Jin makes a big entrance, and he calls Sylph his sister, and he calls her by her first name. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic, and it ends up with a fight between Shiki and Jin, and Sylph going up to Homura. So yeah, that was a very interesting fight indeed. And they're all fighting for the briefcase, which has the medicine to save Weiss. So there's a bit of stake on all of this. Ah, my god, my voice is drying up. Um. And then we see Rebecca wake up, and she's in the bedroom, and the chapter ends with like Draken Joe just sat in his bathtub and the rubber duck carefully placed. I enjoyed that quite a bit. That was kind of funny. A bit of a reverse fan service in this chapter. Yeah, and this chapter was interesting because we learn about the true reason why Draken Joe even wants to Eden Zero in the first place. I mean, no, we don't learn about in chapter 77. But it's interesting to see like what the true motive was. Added a bit of mystery as well, and the action in this, the paneling in this was amazing because of all like the action shot panels. And in 77, we learn what Draken really wanted, and this was a big plot twist, especially for me. I never saw it coming. I gotta say, I'm especially enjoying this story so far. So this is the latest chapter, and the reason why Draken Joe is being really friendly with Rebecca and everything. Like oh, you can do this, you can do this. I was wondering why. So the reason why he wanted Rebecca, I mean, I kind of gave it away, but yeah, it was interesting to see what his true goals for the Eden Zero was. And he said he wanted something special when he said that. And I was thinking maybe it's the Inferion or something like that. Because, there's a lot of special things on the ship and we still don't know about. But apparently he wanted Rebecca the whole time. And he calls her by her full name. And also he calls her number 29. So I can't wait to find out what the meaning behind number 29 is. So that'd be interesting to see. And he wants her to join a crew as well. So yeah. And so I'm guessing Master Noah has ratted he's a bit of a rat for sneaking out his guild member like that. Indeed. And yeah, so that's pretty crazy. But so the whole time Draken wanted Rebecca. Very interesting to see. But I don't think that's gonna go down well with Shiki. So yeah, that was the latest chapter, and I'm gonna say I've thoroughly enjoyed what I read so far, and I can't wait to read some more. And I can definitely see a showdown between Draken and Shiki. That's going to be quite interesting. And we still haven't seen who the Earth Element 4 is. So I gotta say, I can't wait for him to see it. But as I was saying, the the story is definitely not predictable in this one at all. And yeah, the storytelling that Hiramashima is doing in this is definitely more, what do you call it? It's very dynamic and interesting, and it's not very predictable like his other series. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this one, and I think this one might be better than Fairy Tales so far. I think it's come to a point where I enjoy this more, but it's still early days, only 78 chapters out, and I'm still waiting for more to come out really. And yeah, this was very good. Yeah, the whole the whole the whole arc was very so far has been good, and a lot of reveals, and I hope we get more reveals later on. But I want to see Sister in more action because she's definitely my favorite Starshine so far. She needs some more spotlight. That's what I think. Maybe she can get off the ship because she always stays on the ship. I wanted to like join on the missions next time, and we'll find out. Bye.